Welcome everyone to Dakota Falls, a fictional Colorado-inspired USA county where we've already done a handful of builds, small bustling towns, beautiful suburbs, modern McMansions, and most recently a gorgeous historic hotel. But if something is missing right now, it's an actual city, an economical, political center of the county. So for today's build, we're going to start building a realistic city to be one of the main focal points of Dakota Falls. But we'll be doing it a bit differently by actually overhauling the existing town of River's Edge. And this is going to pose quite a challenge, as it's going to require some pretty extensive expansions to go from town to city, while at the same time I don't want to completely change everything. And if you enjoy my content, hitting the like button will send this video to the sun. And recently I've been friendly reminding people to subscribe if they've forgotten to, as more than 80% of my audience isn't subscribed, and each time I give a friendly reminder, the subscriber count basically explodes. Alright, so under normal circumstances I would approach this project by just starting to expand the downtown so that it generally represents a city instead of a town, and then following that with the scale of downtown in place, I'd start expanding the footprint of the city and building out the suburbs. But this time around I'm going to try and do it a little differently by kind of reversing that order. Because I would like to have people move in as quickly as possible, and I would like to utilize zoning as well, which, if you are a regular viewer of my content, should surprise you, because I don't remember when I zoned the last time, but I'm pretty confident I can get a pretty good look going this time around, and I'll show you guys exactly how to do it. But basically, I'm gonna reverse it and expand the footprint of the city with tons of suburban development first, and then I'm going to revert or revamp rather the downtown of River's Edge afterwards. Because by using zoning, I'm confident that if I zone large areas and then just hit play, we can focus on downtown while the population is going to slowly build up. And one of the reasons I want to do that in that order as well is that if we check down here, we can see we have a really high demand for residential zoning here in Dakota Falls, and the best reason for that, of course, is that we've barely got 900 people living here, so it has to be the lowest population county in the United States. I assume so, at least. But we've got almost 500 unoccupied jobs, and when we just have a look at the city of River's Edge, which is a town now, all workplaces are screaming for more employees, and it's the same when we check down here. So that's a general theme that we want to fix. Before I do anything though, I gotta make a little assessment of the infrastructure we have in place. So the train station for now, I think, is gonna stay put, and we'll have to expand it at some time. And then the connection to the interstate network here, we've got a single connection here, and then if we move north, we've also got a connection up here near this old factory. But basically we've just got a single connection for now, and we may consider doing another connection entirely to the interstate network. One thing I want to do is grab this national road, which due to the pretty high speed allowed here, it's able to process quite a bit of traffic volume compared to a slower speed road. I want to kind of expand this national road network and draw a road south here. We'll go underneath the train tracks, and it's gonna terminate somewhere here, so that there's a bit of a quick way to get to the suburban developments that we'll build down here, so you don't have to drive like straight through downtown. So that's the first thing I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna use the picker mod to I'm gonna use the picker mod to grab this national road network here, and then ideally just go straight south, something like this, cutting right by the soccer field near River Edge Elementary School. There you go. We're just gonna clean up, and then, like I said, I want to go beneath the train tracks. It's generally gonna be cheaper than the train tracks having to have a dedicated bridge. something like this. Then we're gonna grab network multi-tool and we'll select this set slope mode. It's gonna allow us to create a beautiful slope. And we're gonna do the same over here, of course. Something like that. Great, so I'm going to make this intersection here a little more detailed and complex, so it matches the ones we've got here, which doesn't necessarily make a ton of sense, but it's awesome to look at. And we gotta remember that for, you know, realistic city building, then things don't always make a ton of sense. Quite often, cities in real life and the planning done to those cities is quite bad, doesn't follow best practices. So yeah, it's only realistic that that's also the case for us. So we'll extend this to make it look a lot more interesting, just by adding some dedicated lanes. We'll use node controller to expand the scale of this blue one. And then we're just gonna do some really simple markings, and hopefully I've already got some markings down here I can steal. So selecting the intersection marking tool, I am able to copy previously done markings. And now this is not actually gonna fit my needs because we've got two of these small lanes crossing here. So we're gonna grab this one instead, which should fit our needs. We're gonna paste and just see if we can align it, and that's good enough. And we'll do the same over here, and we can do a bit of manual alignment afterwards just to make sure it looks nice. We'll grab the markings I've done here because they are obviously going to fit in here with some adjustment. There you go. And then we've just got a really simple style here, which maybe can I grab from, yes, I've got a setup over here. Might not be the most realistic or logical markings that I do, but yeah, they take a ton of time to do if I'm to try and make them real or feel more real, so I'm not gonna spend too much time on that. Next up, I'm going to use the lane connector feature of the traffic manager mod, so that I can ensure that, for instance, if you don't take a right turn here, then you can't take a right turn here if you go straight, because obviously you are going to have to use the dedicated lane. So in this case, you have to go left if you choose to go straight here. Same deal is the case here. If you drive up here in the right lane and you choose not to turn right here, then you're not going to be able to turn right here, because this is what the dedicated lane is for, of course. So you have to go straight. Here as well, if you do not choose to go left here, then you don't get to do it here either. And for the final touch, something I like to do is use the node controller mod to just make these small lanes a little more narrow, because I feel that usually, depending on the type of asset, the road asset you use, they are just a little too wide. And these also have pretty big shoulders, so that's an extra motivation for me to just reduce the size of them. I'm shrinking them, sorry, by about 10%, so we get to 90. Next up, we also gotta make sure to upgrade this railway segment here to an elevated piece. So I'm using the picker mod again and just selecting the segment. As you guys can see, I have a ton of different railway segments in my collection. So I always use the picker mod. It just makes it the easiest way. Let's see, I'm selecting the, is this what we want? It is. So I'm just gonna upgrade it to the bridge segment here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just gonna adjust the nodes a bit, because obviously with the pillar structure here, this doesn't really look all that great. So if we select both nodes, we hold down Alt, we should be, I say that, but we're not able to it's just clipping all over the place. Never mind. We'll do it the manual way to ensure that it's aligned. Sorta okay. Actually, I'm not a huge fan of this type of elevated segment, but I know I've used a different type over here. So I think I'm just gonna jump in with the picker mod and select this type of segment and then jump back over and upgrade it. And I think I have to raise it a bit as well because it's sort of clipping a bit into the ground. Or actually the better solution is probably to grab some terraforming tools and just, you know, smoothen this out a bit. Because the terrain here is a little rough right now. Now that we've got the main connection to this side of the railway network in place, we're going to start expanding with just the road network to allow us to expand with the suburban areas we discussed in the very beginning. I'm just gonna draw a road straight south, and this is not a suburban style road, it's a bit more of a main road. So basically I'm just gonna draw it all the way out here to meet with our national road, and it's gonna kind of flank the railway because we will have a bit of commercial developments over here as well. And we're gonna intersect with the dirt road, which I'll probably go and update. Alright, then we need the residential roads, and I'm a big fan of these roads I've used here because they have sort of you know, they have some wear and some cracks and details already designed in the actual road network, so that makes it a little easier for me. It means we'll be doing a little less detailing. And for starters, I'm just gonna make a super simple grid. So here we've got our basic grid, but I'm gonna make a little change to better connect up this huge future suburb a little better with the interstate network. I think I'll make an eventual connection over here. So to achieve that, we're just gonna grab our national road. I'll be upgrading this road here, so that the national road kind of cuts through this suburb here, and we're gonna remove quite a few of these connections so that we don't have a connection to the national road that kind of disturbs the traffic flow all the time. That's not really what we want. And we'll just create a really simple design here with an additional lane added, and that's basically it. We are continuing the national road for the eventual additional connection to the interstate network. So I'm just gonna move it south and run it over here, and then when we have time, we can connect it all up, make it look real fancy. For now, I'm just gonna add in a few additional roads since we've done this change now, so that we can squeeze a few more buildings in here. Now there are just two more things we need to do before we start this massive zoning experiment here, and that is that I'd like to build a high school first, so that we've got some capacity to handle all the future education demands. Probably gonna need to build an elementary school somewhere as well, but we're gonna start with the high school. And if you noticed, I left a bit of room here so that we've got space to work with. And then I'm gonna add cul-de-sacs to these end nodes here with the node controller mod. And I can show you quickly just how I achieved that. It's just gonna be small cul-de-sacs. So I add an extra node here and here, for instance, and then I go into node controller. I select this end node, and then I can stretch it. And I'm just gonna stretch it like 20%. It's not gonna be a big cul-de-sac where you have houses lined up. It's just gonna be, you know, to kind of represent that, okay, this is the end of the streets. So for the high school, I wasn't sure what assets I have available, but it seems like I have sort of a high school that I can like build with several different segments to create like an interesting design, which I'm a pretty big fan of. So I think I'm just gonna place down like the 4 assets, and then we're gonna check how to actually make that look nice. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab all the road nodes surrounding the high school, as well as all the buildings, and then I'm just gonna align everything to the same height. So I'm gonna hit Control H and click on this node, and everything on this lot is now aligned. So it's not gonna give me any issues with like the height of the terrain. And I really like that. It does make the whole thing a little easier. And obviously it's a pretty massive high school we've got going here, but I don't mind. It's got a bit of a unique look to it. So I'm just gonna randomly align some of these buildings, and then that's that. That's our high school. Preferably we have some sort of sports fields, probably American football here on the other side. So let's see what we've got. We got a suburban American football field, or a community American football park. So it's a bit of a bigger asset. Just gonna try and place that and see if it's out of place. Nah, I think that's pretty great for exactly what we want. I am going to upgrade the roads, or rather add another type of road to kind of surround it then. Cool. And for the high school, we're gonna need some parking, obviously. And I'm not really keen. I'm trying to build my own parking lot right now, so I'm gonna see if I have like a pre-configured one I could use. And what I'm doing now is just disabling the street side parking on the little road I'm using to allow cars to access the parking lot. Otherwise it's gonna look really weird, or you'll have some real bricks that kind of block the parking bays. Parking lots for the stadium is probably gonna be a pretty good idea as well. And I'm just gonna try to also just place some simple parking buildings, because I don't want to spend too much time on this. And just make a little alignment here. There you go. And then we're gonna use some very simple paths and decals to just detail up this high school. And I really want to avoid spending too much time just detailing this area up. So I'm gonna cover up my lousy tracks with lots of trees, some simple hedges, a few decals, and just stuff like that, which is pretty low effort, but it just makes everything look more beautiful. And yeah, that's pretty much it. We've got a high school, like I said, decals, some stains and cracks is going to just provide a bit of extra character to the whole area. So I'm just gonna come through and spam the thing up with some of those. But basically this is just, you know, quick detailing, just so it doesn't look completely out of place and it looks sort of realistic. And then we are on to more expansion. To wrap up the high school detailing, I'd like to add a crossing so that you can easily cross from the high school to the small football stadium. So we are gonna use node controller to create an additional node here where I have already aligned the two walkways, the two paths. I'm just gonna, it's gonna give an error, but it did what I wanted it to. I'm gonna select the node and then I'm going to say custom. And you can say crossing, but it's gonna create a too thin empty space here, which is not what I want. And there isn't any auto marking created anyways, not with this road asset at least. So I'm gonna say custom, and then I'm going to do a little alignment here, just bringing them closer together. Then jump into intersection marking tool. And if I hold down shift, I'll be able to drag out a crossing. What I can do now is increase the width to what I want. 4 meters seems about right. And then I'll be able to add in an offset so that I can just about align it. Oh, I'm clicking everything now. Something like this. Looks nice. I'll go into graphic effects and I'm going to add some more texture density, sorry, and some cracks, because everything else here also has some cracks and is kind of worn down. Great. And if we want to make it really fancy, we could actually add a traffic light. So I'm just gonna add that, given that it's actually a massive high school. Like, it's the size of the current downtown, so it's probably like the primary high school for the entire Dakota Falls county. Which is fine with me, because River's Edge is going to be the primary city of the county. Going to add just a few like makeshift parks before we start zoning, and the purpose of these is to just be like really low detail, quickly created, because we'll mostly be looking at these from a distance, and the map is very heavy on my PC as is, so I'm not gonna spend a ton of time detailing up these parks, especially not since I'm going to add a ton of trees, so that from like satellite view, the paths are barely visible, but of course from the human scale and the human perspective, it's gonna be an awesome place to find shade and hear the birds sing. So I've added 2 very simple ones here, and then we're just gonna add a ton of trees. Alright, now the big zoning experiment can start, and I'm going to show you guys exactly how I set this up. So I'm gonna use the district styles mod. I think it's called something else these days. It's called district style editor. There used to be an old version of this mod as well, but today it's district style editor. And what this allows you to do is create district styles, which, I mean, makes a bunch of sense. I've created a style here called Historic USA Middle, and the middle is like middle income-ish. And if we go and have a look at what I've included, all the houses here are either 2x3 or 2x4, so they're pretty narrow lots, which I think is pretty fitting for more historic type houses. And I've included a very big selection of houses, so I'm hopeful that none of them really stick out too much, and that I'll get the amount of variety that I want, because that's also something that's very critical when you zone. You don't want to have, you know, duplicate houses right next to each other. Something that's of course also gonna allow me to zone is that I've primarily built a grid here, so alignment of houses is a little easier. It's as soon as the roads get, you know, bendy and curvy, that's when the real issues start appearing. As an example, I'm probably not going to be able to zone down here, but have to place them manually. But the first thing I'm going to need to do is just segment this up into some districts, of course, because that's how we're going to, that's what we're going to need to actually be able to use these district styles. So I'm just going to zone 3 districts, I think, and I'll name them afterwards. For now, it's mainly so that we can apply these district styles. And this is probably fine. The naming isn't even all that bad. Over here it is a bit hilly, so it could be, well, it could be Barlow Hill instead of Barlow Hills. And Magnolia Park is also a pretty fitting name, so for now that's fine. We're gonna click the district and then jump into styles, and then I'm going to apply this historic USA middle. I'm gonna click new buildings historical. This is gonna mean that every building that spawns when zoned is historical and won't you know, upgrade to a different building, which is what I want. I'm going to select random spawn levels as well, because if we check my theme again, as you guys can see, the houses are in a few random levels. Some are level 3, some are 4, there's a few level 1s in here. So unless if I don't click this random spawn levels, then all buildings are going to, or most buildings, maybe all, I don't know. Most buildings should be level 1 when they start out. And of course, that's going to mean that the diversity of the buildings that grow is going to be a lot lower. And I'm not going to be able to use this historical setting either, because then all the buildings that grow are level 1. And as you guys can see, I've only got 2 of those included in the style. And they're going to be historical, so they're never going to upgrade. So we're going to have to select random spawn levels so that we get the full selection of our houses. Cool. So I'm going to go ahead and do that for each of these 3. And then I'm gonna zone. Oh man, it's been a while since I've grabbed the zoning tool. So yeah, I'm déjà vu. So my strategy here is just to zone out everything, and then I can jump in and I can remove some zoning tiles at certain places where I don't want buildings to spawn. That might be like right next to the railway tracks or stuff like that. And I also gotta be careful with my zoning, because I don't have any buildings in my district style that are only 2 tiles deep. So for instance, nothing can actually grow here. But I do have some tools that I can use to change that. So if I come in here, I should be able to change the type of zoning we've got here. Yeah. Can actually remove the zoning altogether from this road. All right, let's hit play, and I'm just gonna check if it actually works out the way I want, and then we'll continue on with the rest of the city. So things are growing, and it seems to be restricted to exactly the theme, the district style that I designated. So that's awesome. So we're gonna slow down the time again, and then we can focus on other areas. I'm going to move the road network north as well, so that we cover a bit of this area, because I want suburban housing here as well. It's time we start upgrading downtown now that things are slowly but surely cooking out here in our suburbs. And what we're gonna do is, first I'm just gonna mark the current downtown area, which is very, very small, because then I can show the plan for expansion. So I'm just gonna make a district and we'll just call it downtown. So currently downtown is what? It's like half of this block, half of this block, and then it just a few buildings stretching north here. And if we look at the stats, the population is 8, but we've actually had 262 jobs. So what I plan to do, if I just pause the game, is to expand downtown. So instead of being restricted to this footprint, we're going to include the entirety of this block, the entirety of this block. Of course, we've got the church here, which we're not going to remove. And then we're also gonna grab parts of this block here and parts of this block here. And then preferably we are going to move across here and just grab a bit of land across the railway, so that we have a bit of a bit of commercial activity and some higher density residential buildings over here, without having this being the best part of downtown. That's still gonna be on these sides of the tracks where we've got this very cozy main street. So to designate that, we need to do a little deletion here and there. So I think the first thing I'm just gonna do is simply grab this entire row of buildings here and delete those. Maybe I'll leave a couple out here and just delete these, and then we're gonna do some upgrades. And we should actually just do the same with these 4, 5. I know they need to go, and the same is the case for some of these. Maybe at least these as well, and this entire row we're gonna delete as well. There you go. So this gives us a bit of extra space, to work with for the downtown. And something that I really need is some residential stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead with find it and look for some higher density residential stuff that I can add in here, because I need to have some more apartments in the downtown as well to reflect that it's a bigger downtown. And I might need to just build some overall taller buildings as well, because I've tried to keep it like really low developments so far in the downtown, and I feel it's a very cozy look, but it's also really restricting the type of buildings I can use. Let's have a look at what we've got going for us in downtown. We've done quite a bit of expansion, and it's about twice the size as it was before by adding in these extra blocks, and I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I'm definitely lagging some assets in this collection here, so I'm gonna have to add some more stuff for the next video. And had to be really creative with how I incorporated these assets here, but I'm pretty happy with how it turned out, and I think our integration to the other side of the railway is much better than before, at least. Also, the zoned areas that are now growing, all of these are grown assets. I haven't placed any of these. It's starting to actually look really good. It's some great houses that I've chosen for the district style. So. Yeah, starting to look great. The same case if we look over here. We've also got a pretty diverse selection of houses. So things are slowly but surely growing, which is really nice. What I want to do now is add some more industry to River's Edge. The only industry we've got so far is this small block here, which I built when I initially built the town. So I'm gonna designate a new industrial area, and I think I'm gonna build it in this area here. I'm just gonna mark it out with like a district, so we have like an overview, very close to the highway. So I think that's a very appropriate spot to place it. And I'm of course gonna make some distance to the adjacent housing, so that we don't have houses right next to the industry. Even though I didn't have a problem placing our elementary school right next to industry, but yeah, I'm trying to improve, I guess. So for the road layout, we're just gonna use some very basic roads. I'm just gonna find what I need. Maybe this one would be a pretty good fit. And I'm just gonna drag out here and expand on this interchange here. But yeah, dragging out and creating like a very simple layout for the industry I want. Trying to start out with a few larger assets, such as this warehouse and this logistics center. But once again, I don't have a ton of stuff in the collection, so I'm quickly forced to kind of downscale and trying to place some more regular buildings. And I don't want to place like dirty industry. I want to keep it very simple with some very light manufacturing and some warehouse stuff. Just enjoy the look a little more, and yeah, I don't think it's appropriate to have a lot of dirty industry right here. I'll see if the terrain here allows for us to have all of this be at the same height, because that's gonna make it a lot easier when it comes to parking lots and stuff like that. Let's see, it didn't, yeah, it's all right. Didn't mess up too much. Then I can come in with some terraforming and just straighten the whole thing out. When I do industrial areas, I try to work with, I guess you'd call it negative space as much as possible. So I'll just leave like open places in between buildings here, which I'm going to fill out with concrete. Some will be parking lots. Some of the areas will basically just be storage areas for the buildings. But it's something I try to utilize a lot, because I really feel that it's a relatively simple way of adding a more realistic look to your industrial areas, so that you don't have industrial buildings completely lined up wall to wall for an entire area. I don't find that that approach looks all that realistic, so I much prefer this version. And then I'm gonna see if I can find the right parking. And once again, I would prefer to be able to just easily add parking by using these pre-made parking lots instead of having to make some fancy stuff. I also like to add like lots of small entrances to the industrial sites. For instance, here for this distribution center, the warehouse here as well, some of the parking lots even. it just adds that extra bit of detailing to have roads actually enter these places, so that you don't just have curbs. Next up, something that I utilize a lot in the industrial areas is fencing. We've got quite a few cool fences to use, and just fencing in the whole thing makes it feel a little more realistic, to me at least. So I use that extensively. And it's, I mean, I don't go super, I don't really care about the alignment too much. I mean, it's just gotta look okay, nothing fancy. With that done, I usually just throw in a bunch of random props, completely random industrial props if I can get away with it, if I feel I have enough props to satisfy my needs. And I usually go pretty heavy on the decal use for industrial areas as well, just to roughen up the whole thing. So tons of stains, tons of like cracks in the road, broken pavement. I primarily use Ronic 6.9's decals, and I've been using those for years, and they look fantastic. And yeah, as you guys can see, it really changes the whole aesthetic of an area like this. So that's why I heavily prefer to use those. To finish it off, I'm trying to find some really small like shrubs that can sort of poke through here and there, grow through some of the broken pavement and broken asphalt. And there you go, a quick and dirty industrial area that really did not take a long time to complete, but I think for the amount of effort and time invested, it actually looks pretty cool. And we're doing another check-in with our suburbs, which are starting to look pretty decent by now. Still a ton of empty lots, but slowly but surely the city of River's Edge is growing. We're approaching 1,800 population in total here in the county, and the majority of them are within the city. I removed one of the buildings for the high school because it just seemed a little too massive for the county, basically. And I kind of like this detached look a little better. Something that we need to provide for the county by now is some health services, because I don't have anything in place right now, and that's gonna become a problem. Average health is terrible. We don't have deaf care either, so we don't have childcare. Yeah, we don't have anything. So I should look into adding like a small hospital somewhere. And I think I am going to demolish some of the houses that we've got going here in this area, and then just place like a small hospital of sort, maybe like a medical clinic. I've got a bunch of different assets. Let's see, we've got this modern clinic, maybe that's a good fit. I'll just place it and then we'll have a look. Yeah, it's I guess that is sufficiently boring actually to be sort of what we need. I'll see if I can just grab like a simple parking lot from over here. And I'll just add that in here. And maybe if we grab an asphalt decal or two, it's gonna look like we've got actual fancy access to the parking lot. This one. Yep, that's gonna do. Very, very simple, but doesn't have to be any more fancy than that. It's just to kind of have something that breaks up this block as well. And I mean, provides healthcare to the citizens and all that stuff. But yeah, aesthetics first, and then all that important stuff secondary. And we've just crossed a population of about 2,000 residents, which is really cool. And if you notice, we don't really have any of our workplaces screaming for employees anymore. We've got sufficient manpower, and the city is still growing. But I think we're gonna need to relocate these more modern McMansion areas a bit, because when I initially built these, they were like on the outskirts of River's Edge, but given the, sprawling growth of the city now, I probably want to move these a bit further away, and instead I'll have some of the older, more traditional houses here. So I'm actually just gonna copy paste this whole selection and like move it up here. Let's see if we can just there you go. And then I'm gonna go in here and move it, and I'm gonna say adjust to terrain height. Very nice. And then I'm gonna delete this selection and the selection just south of it. So basically these houses here, because I wanna extend the older suburban areas up here, and then we can have some of these more modern McMansions out here. Something that is pretty cool is I've actually got a theme that solely comprises these McMansion type houses, so I should be able to just grow them naturally by just zoning it. So we're just gonna upgrade these roads to ensure that we have this darker color here to show that it's a very new road. Then I'm going to just pause the game, and I'm gonna zone this up, and then we'll see just how well this works or doesn't work. But yeah, just adding this, and then it's called Barlow Hills, new buildings, historical, random building, random spawn levels, and then it is called American Eclectic Theme, and I think it's the bottom one here because I created a version that doesn't have the building, the construction sites, because this theme includes some construction sites down here, and they're very cool, but that's not quite what I want. I want this area to actually be done. And I have from level 3 and onwards, so we'll select random spawn levels from 3 and onwards, and I'll just select this and say save, and then hopefully that is going to grow here in the future. And for these, for this area here, I'm just gonna designate another suburb entirely. I'm gonna add zoning to all of it, and then I'm going to add our historical older US theme that we've used throughout much of the city. Let's hit play and see if this unfolds as we want. Of course, I don't have that much residential demand anymore, so it's gonna take a little while for things to spawn. But it seems that the very first building we've got here in Barlow Hills is just what we wanted. So hopefully this is all gonna work out, and the same with the Pleasant Heights. I'd also like to just make sure I add an apartment complex of some sort. Some stuff that is a bit higher density. It breaks up a bit of the monotony, and it always makes areas a little more interesting and makes me think about the history of certain areas, why they look like they do. Why do we have this older apartment complex here, for instance? What's the story behind it all? So yeah, just adding that, and then we are going for super simple detailing. Probably going to convert this into our parking lot road in just a second. But for now, I'm just gonna add some very basic paths And then of course tons of trees to just cover up any imperfections. So something like this, and then just trees everywhere. And yet the road we've got going here, I want to convert that to a parking lot road. I don't remember what they're called. Parking lot roads? Is that what? Yeah, that's exactly what I want. Perfect. And preferably I'd just make this a little more light in the color. And then we'll use, I need to check the direction. We'll be adding our parking. And then these buildings actually have a type of decal that I think we'll be able to find. So if I can just find that decal and add it, that's gonna add just a bit of extra detailing. Actually, I think I'm gonna use the Bob mod just to check the name of it. Tiles, is that the name? Okay, we'll try to just search for tiles, and we actually found exactly what we wanted. So joke's on me. So let's just add a single tile to each of these, which is just a tiny thing to add, but it just, you know, connects the building a little, makes it a little better integrated with the road, the pavement, so it's perfect. And I think I'm gonna upgrade this stretch of road to the road type I've used over here instead. So we're going for this look instead. It's a little better integrated with the paths here. And then we'll add some paths in here and some trees for a small recreational area. Oof, just look at the amount of stuff we've developed so far. It's actually starting to look like a city, at least from afar. And of course, some areas are just less detailed than that we'd like to, but that's a necessity to, you know, try and capture an actual city vibe. And it would of course take forever if we were to carefully detail all these roads. But generally, considering that most of this is zoned, I am very, very happy with how it has turned out. And like we've talked about before, it's all about the sharp angles, allowing for easy zoning, and then using a good district style that you can conjure yourself to kind of control the diversity of the buildings, and of course what buildings you actually get. There's one more area that I'd like to build before we wrap this up, and that's a very special type of suburban development. It's gonna look a bit like Easy Hill here, where we've got our McMansions, but it's still gonna be a bit of a different style, because while these are kind of archetypical modern suburban developments, then the lots are actually pretty big here, and you can definitely get some developments that are very, very different. So we're gonna try and create such a development now, where the lots are extremely small. The house basically fills out the entire lot, and you don't really have much garden to speak of. But I mean, maybe you're a millennial and your money is only gonna go so far. So to start off this area, everything's gonna be just a bit different compared to our sort of McMansion build over here, starting with the actual road that we use to branch out and create this area. As you guys can see, it's a lot narrower than this one, and it only features parking on one side. So we're just gonna map this one out and make sure it's real close to the other road. And we're gonna do something like this, just make sure it isn't elevated. I'm gonna need to change the color, but I'll just add a few cul-de-sacs at first. So we'll add some nodes throughout so we can get our cul-de-sacs in place. And I'm gonna just clean out some of the trees so that we can really see what we're doing here. I'm gonna select the road again, and we are gonna give it a much darker color to represent that it's a modern development. So these roads were just paved, and I made the mistake of not... Oh wait, I can can make our cul-de-sacs now. I'm gonna make them a little bigger than for the other development because I'm hopeful that maybe I'll be able to get multiple buildings to face the actual cul-de-sac. So we're gonna use a very narrow type of house here, and I'm pretty sure they're called, no, they're not called boring. Are they called boomer? They're called boomer homes, essentially. And we're just gonna place these throughout. I'm gonna remove some zoning here, and I'm gonna remove zoning here as well. Then let's get back to our boomer homes. And we're gonna place these real close to each other. That's the whole point, basically, of this development. Right, so I've got most of the houses placed now, and I'm just gonna manually adjust a few of them just to make it look a little bit better and fill out this cul-de-sac, because that's neither achievable through, obviously not through zoning, but not by just the first initial placement of the building either. Unfortunately, we are gonna have to manually adjust each building to make sure that they fit the spot okay. So in the case of this particular development, I'm gonna add some older and beautiful trees in some of the empty space between the lots, but on the actual lots there will be no old trees because everything was just kind of raised to make way for the lot and the building. But all the negative space within the houses, I am going to add these old buildings. I imagine it's maybe part of the like regulations for building here that you respect the trees and bits of forest as much as possible, even when you're doing developments where you will be clearing out most of the lots. So in this case, we've got a bit of negative space in here between these row of houses, for instance, where we can fit in some of these trees and just make the whole thing look a bit better. But obviously it's very modern and very sort of uniform look for a modern development, and it's in pretty stark contrast to the neighboring development here. And I've actually got I've got a poop water issue here, so let's just fix the, oh, I did lower the budget there so slightly, but we are making money now. I have infinite cash, but I like to try and turn a profit at least. And with that last addition, I'm going to wrap up this video, or it's gonna spiral completely out of control, and I don't want that. I already got a big editing task on my hand, I feel. So thank you so much for watching, and I can't wait to build some more stuff on this wonderful map. And I'm really happy that we've now got a bit more of an established city and not just a town. River's Edge has certainly grown substantially. We've added at least 2,000 people, maybe 2,200 to the city so far, which is awesome. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next one. Bye.